Let's talk about how songs developed.
Right.
I can't go through the whole list, but every rose has its thorn. You wrote about heartbreak on the road.
Right.
It surprises me almost to the point of shock, that you actually got your heart broken.
Right.
On the road.
We're playing Texas, great place for country, great place for rock. And I convinced the band to play at a then, let's call it a honky-tonk, but then kind of a country bar. I would say out of a place that probably held 1,000, there's probably a couple hundred people. You know, we get done, pack up our stuff, and went back to a motel, made a payphone call, and in the middle of that conversation was not only my girlfriend's voice, but I could hear someone else's voice in the background. I'm like,
so you're on the road in Texas and you're calling your girlfriend, and it becomes apparent to you that she is not alone.
that is correct. I can say this for anyone that's had their heart broken. It's much more than a heartbreak. There's almost this feeling in your gut that it trickles out almost like a feeling like you want to throw up. That is literally the night I sat down with the acoustic and wrote Every Rose Has Its Thorn. And I'm not saying I haven't had my heart punched a few times before, but this was my first, what you thought was a true love affair. And then I called back and no one answered, and that is the worst moment in your life. It's horrible.
Unbroken. You wrote this with your daughter Georgia when she was 13 years old at the time.
Yep.
Talk to me about what you think the message of the song is, what the song's about, and how it came about.
When I was writing this song with my youngest daughter, Georgia Blue, she was going through a tough time with social media. You know, people call it bullying. I call it cowards. You know, if you want to be a person, I'm saying for me, you talk it out, you get face to face and you figure it out. You know, so anyway, she's going through a tough time. She has best friends, don't get me wrong, that are great, and then a few that just stir the pot, and she was feeling pretty upset. And we sit down and we wrote this song together, not about being a victim. It was about being hurt and facing adversity and being stronger than our storm. That's what both of us called it. How do we become stronger than the storm that's around us right now? And we wrote a song called Unbroken. You can, like I said, you know, it's the fight inside of me. And that's, you know, the faith to believe.
The song Something to Believe In, which you use frequently as a closer.
Absolutely.
How did it come about?
Something to Believe In is, came about for me when my best friend, Chemo, passed away. And, sorry.
Okay, take your time.
I'm great. So my best friend Chemo passed away, and that song saved my life. He was my... Can you guys excuse me 1 second? Is it right if I get help him?
Give me something to believe in. Give me something that says I know the fun. Give me something to believe in.
You feel what you feel.
Absolutely. You know, I lost my best friend, and that's what started the song. So it happened right before Christmas Eve, right? And went through Christmas, and I'd been on the road every day with this guy. Chemo was my best bud. You know, and you form these relationships on the road that are the bonds of what people say what bonds you is shared moments, right? And we shared so many moments of ups and downs and parties going through his ups and downs in his life. But you go through this stuff, and I say to this, like Something to Believe In, I talk about my dad. I'm the son of a veteran. You know, my cousin Bobby came back from Vietnam, a Marine, 2 Purple Hearts. Just so thankful for their freedom. But what I think makes a good artist is, first of all, vulnerability. But there's also something, Dan, I've never talked much about. You know, you talk about sometime, it may not always be what's inside of me is this amazing positivity and this juxtaposition, which is anger, right, that go like this. But there's also a sadness. There's sometimes a sadness that I've chosen to be positive over from the diabetes. In other words, I chose not to be a victim.
I want to talk a little more about your father and members of your family being in the military. Did you consider yourself growing up a military brat, quote unquote?
I did not. I consider myself a proud son of my father who served in the Navy. And, you know, my dad was I knew him as Dad. He was a great guy. You know, he would talk Not a whole lot about his service overseas. You know, he would come back and there'd be conversations when his buddies are around. I mean, they all like to drink, go down to the VFW hall, and you know what I mean? So I'd get to hear stories here and there. But I knew growing up, you were, you don't know this, but you were a huge part of my life. And here's why. You're part of our family. My cousin Bobby is positive that he met you when he was overseas in Da Nang. You know, and he was over there, I want to say 66 to 68 or 69, and he has 2 Purple Hearts. He got, you know, hit pretty good over there, and he's positive he met you, and you guys exchanged words while he was overseas.
Well, you tell him I'm honored he will remember that. This always has a somewhat hollow ring to it. It's said a certain way, but I'm serious. I appreciate their sacrifice and service for our country.
Thank you.
I'm interested what effect it had on you, that because you had this diabetes, and very serious diabetes,
right,
you were never a candidate for military service.
That is
you
correct.
couldn't serve if you fought for it.
Yeah, as a child, knowing that, and this includes my sisters. My sisters at Offutt Air Force Base, you know, every member of my family has served or is a first responder. Being a diabetic, that was not a choice for me, and I knew that early on. You know, would I love to serve our country? And if I was called to do it, 1,000%, absolutely. But that wasn't going to be a choice. So what my parents did with me, my dad and my mom were awesome, and what they taught me, you want to play football, Bret? I said, of course I want to play football. They go, okay, here's the deal. You're going to have to work twice as hard, maybe 3 times as hard, because you're managing your blood sugar. You're going out to play ball. When you get hit, if your blood sugar's not under control and you're bleeding, it's going to take more time to heal. But they taught me that if you want to do it and you want to live an amazing life, you're going to have to work twice or 3 times as hard to do it, but you can do it. And they never said I couldn't do it. That's what brings me that positive energy.